Hi guys, this is another video, Science 13. I updated my channel recently so it looks better. Um, Sorry you haven't heard from me for a while. I'm hopefully that it's all going to change. Um, Today's video is going to be about entomology. By the way, please subscribe to me. I'm fairly new at this. The Science Olympiads video. By the way, this is homemade, so you can't find this online, but I will be teaching it for internal anatomy and physiology. What's on the inside and what's it doing. Alright, let's get started. Here we go. I'll close that up if I can figure it out. There we go. The circulatory, which is blood and stuff. Insects have both an open and closed circulatory systems, like all other arthropods. Closed means the blood-containing vessels, arteries, veins, capillaries, and the heart, like humans, have a closed circulatory system. And insects also have an open circulatory system, where the blood flows freely within the body cavity, where it makes direct contact with the internal tissues and organs. Humans do not have this, though I don't know if that would be useful for a human. Most likely not. Technical difficulties. What's the purpose of the circulatory system? It moves nutrients, salts, hormones, and metabolic waste, which is basically excrement, however you pronounce it. The circulatory system has the same functions in a human as it does an insect, which is sealing off wounds with clotting, encapsulating and destroying parasites, and producing, well, humans don't have this, producing distasteful compounds that provide some sort of protection against predators. So basically it's an adaptation in the circulatory system. The blood itself has good properties. The hydrostatic pressure is generated internally by muscle contraction to facilitate hatching, molting, body and wing expansion after molting, physical movement, reproduction, invagination of certain types, and excretory glands. What this is, we'll get to that in a different video about the external anatomy. Helps aid in thermoregulation, which is controlling the body temperature by collecting heat and by circulating heat during sunbathing. Notice a lot of insects just sitting in the sun normally during the summertime. Pulsatile organs are near the base of wings and legs. They act together with certain body movements to push out the hemolymph into the extremities, which is basically like a concentrated blood. Its main purpose is just to give and take what's necessary, while blood gets down to specifics. Hemolymph is a blunt tool, in other words. 90% of it is plasma, while the other 10 is hemocytes, which are various different types of cell types. They're involved in clotting and encapsulation of foreign bodies. Plasma is a clear liquid, as it is in human blood. So here we have a picture of the inside of an insect circulatory system. The dorsal vessel runs along the back of the abdomen and thorax. It's what collects the hemolymph in the abdomen and conducts it back to the head. The heart is basically just one of the chambers inside the dorsal vessel, and it has a valve, so make sure it's one-way flow. What happens is the blood gets pumped from the abdomen, and it goes through the dorsal vessel, goes back to the head, where at the end of this it's empty into the head, and it washes over all the organs, and hence having an open circulatory system. And this arrow, which is very neatly drawn. Once it's flown through all the organs, swapped out waste for nutrients for waste, and such, it is brought back, passes through the rectum, I'm guessing, and back into the dorsal vessel to continue back to the head. Contractions flow from chamber to chamber. So basically, all of these like peristalsis, except in your main blood vessel. Next slide. Inside the head, circulatory system still, we have the aorta, which is on the dorsal vessel pretty much. It's just the top part towards the head. It's that goes forward and empties the blood near the brain. There are two thin sheets of muscle that divide the neck, essentially. These are the dorsal diaphragm on top and the ventral diaphragm on bottom. They are diaphragms, hence being a thin sheet of muscle, as your human diaphragms. On top, divided by the dorsal diaphragm, is the pericardinal sinus, while in the center is the paravisceral sinus. Sinuses are generally just small areas in the body. The respiratory system for insects, no. All living beings must obtain oxygen from the environment to survive. Well, not all, but most at least, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if there's some that don't need energy. Fermentation, okay. They use the same metabolic reaction as animals to convert nutrients into chemical bond energy of ATP, which is cellular respiration. I had a brain block. They're responsible for delivering oxygen to all the cells of the body and removing CO2, which is still chemical cellular respiration. They separate from the circulatory system, where in humans they are very much connected, and they consist of tubes called the tracheal system, which delivers oxygen containing air to cells. And note, they are not called the bronchial system. That was on a test last year, and we got that question wrong. How does oxygen get around inside the tracheal system? So what happens is spiracles, which are holes in the side of the body of the insect's body, they are generally in the thorax and abdomen, not a lot in the head probably. They enter the spiracle, pass through the body cavity, through the tracheal trunk, and distribute to all cells and organs via tracheal tubes. So to make that sound better, so to dumb it down, pretty much, is oxygen enters through the spiracle. It goes through a tracheal trunk into these big, which are these big purple lines, and those are like your big, like pipes that contain oxygen. The tracheal tubes will then spread out from the trunks and goes directly to the organs. At the end of each tracheal tube, there is a tracheoly, or in humans it's known as alveoli. That's basically what they are, and which does the gas exchange, cellular respiration. Next slide, please. From the front, well, at the neck at least, the tracheal trunks are these big tubes right here, where the big arrows are pointing. That's why they're there. There are air sacs in the neck that also contain air. So in case, like, insects that dive underwater sometimes for prey, they have a small sac of air so they can breathe underwater for a very small amount of time. Then the tracheal tubes are going directly to the organs. Each tracheal tube develops as an invagination, which will be in the explanation in the external anatomy video, of the ectoderm, which is in a different video as well, during embryonic development, so basically while they're in the egg. To prevent its collapse under pressure, a thin reinforcing wire, quotation marks, of the cuticle, it's part of the exoskeleton, which is the tenata, winds spirally through the membranous wall. This design, similar in structure to the heater house on an automobile, on an exhaust duct, or whatever, it's very much like the cartilage in your esophagus that causes an Adam's apple in young males. Humans. Gives tracheal tubes the ability to flex and stretch without developing kinks and restrict airflow. Basically, all of these are tiny tracheas. So here we have the digestive and excretory systems, which they are very much connected. Here we have the digestive and excretory systems, which are very much connected. So there are three main parts to the digestive system, and then there's the front of the insect, basically. So here we have, when food is being eaten, let's say this cursor is food, it goes into the mouth area, what's being chewed by the mouth parts. Back here in the lower thorax, there are salivary glands, with reservoirs to hold extra saliva, that produce saliva. The salivary glands produce saliva when needed, are shoved through the salivary ducts into the salivarium, which excretes it to help break down the food with its enzymes. It's then pushed back into the digestive system by the hypothalamic, which is essentially a tongue for the insect. Here's the alimentary canal, which is sort of like the esophagus. Then we have three parts: foregut, which is also known as the stomodium scientifically; midgut, which is also known as mesenterion; and the hindgut, which is the protodeum. Here we have the stomodium, the foregut. So here we have the food, which is pushed back by the hypothalamic into the buccal cavity, which is the first place it goes through. So that's basically the range of motion that the hypothalamic has, is through the buccal cavity. Cibarial muscles, after the hypothalamic can't reach, push it back into the esophagus, which is part of the alimentary canal. This is all alimentary, the esophagus basically. Into the crup, which is essentially a holding area for all the food that's been chewed up. Here's it's not a it doesn't absorb the nutrients yet. Here's the proventriloquus. It's the section that actually prepares it to go into the next area, the midgut. Here it is basically just it's made sure to be small enough to where it can be absorbed. And then the intima is the epithelial tissue, which is lining the foregut. And they have a stomatial valve, which connects this, which is stomatial. The valve which prevents food from overflowing into the midgut. Here we have the mesenteron, midgut. After going through the stomatial valve, we have the cardial epithelium, which are two muscles which basically mush it up into pretty much a liquid form, and they also excrete enzymes to help with that, kind of like saliva. Here we have the ventriloquus, which is the main part of the mesenteron. This is where most of the nutrition absorption takes place, as does the gastric sacca, which are tubes that come off of it. These are really big tubes, so whether they are used for storage or for absorption is unclear to me. The paratropic membrane is what lines the lower part of the ventriloquus, which is right here. Then we have the pyloric valve, which stops the food before it goes into the hindgut. Notice ventriloquus, and here, right here, what this is called is the proventriloquus. Pro meaning before, and ventriloquus is what it is. Here's the protodeum. It's the hindgut, essentially. It is the hindgut. And so let's talk about Malpighian tubules. These are a bunch of little tubes right here. Yes, all those wiry tubes that you see in every picture. They remove nitrogenous waste from the hemolymph, essentially excrement, converts things to urea and then uric acid, and accumulates inside each tubule and eventually emptied in the hindgut for elimination. So basically, they're like a bunch of kidneys, but they're in the tube form, and they are more effective since they have a bigger reach. So, the reason they have tubules is because of their open circulatory system. If it were otherwise, a lot of blood would be left behind unclean, and it would just be dirty blood circulating. After entering through the pyloric valve, it goes into the ileum, which basically starts the process of preparing for excrement. Choline, which absorbs all the water to create a nearly dry fecal pellet to preserve water. And then after the colon, it goes to the rectum, which gets it all finished up and nice to be excreted through the anus, and the rectal pads essentially shape it and absorb any last bit that might be needed to be absorbed. What makes metamorphosis happen? Hormones, in one word. Yeah, hormones are chemical signals sent from cells in one part of a body to the other part of the insect, aka chemical messenger. They cause profound changes in the target cells. The effect can be stimulatory or inhibitory. Stimulatory meaning causing the cells to temporarily do something, such as an action, or inhibitory meaning they will change function or what they actually are. Basically saying from one cell, a stem cell essentially, to become a respiratory cell, or any other thing. Sometimes a single hormone can have multiple I just said that, I believe. No, there. Multiple targets and cause different effects in each target. There are 4 categories of hormone-producing cells. Notice they are not the type of hormones, they are the cells that produce them. They are the endocrine glands, which humans have, and they are circulatory structures producing hormones and releasing them into the circulatory system. Neurohemo, notice neuro meaning brain or nervous system, hemo meaning blood related. So, like glands, but store the secretory product in a special chamber until stimulated to release it, when built up by a nervous system, hence the neuro, or another hormone. Neurosecretory cells, secretion being secretory, and neuro being nervous system. Specialized nerve cells, neurons, that respond to stimulation by producing and secreting specific chemical messages. They serve as a link between the nervous system and the endocrine system. Basically, the nervous system will notify the neurosecretory cells to send a message of a hormone to a neurohemo cell, or an endocrine gland. And then there's, of course, the internal organs, which every animal, I'm assuming, they have hormone-producing cells associated with several organs of the body, including ovaries, testes, fat body, and parts of the digestive system. So most of your organs, if not all, produce some type of hormone or another. Saliva, stomach acid. I'm not going to get into specifics because I'm uncomfortable. Together, these hormone-secreting structures form the endocrine system, which helps maintain homeostasis, coordinate behavior, regulate growth, development, and other physiological activities. A couple more interesting facts. The largest and most obvious endocrine glands are found in the prothorax, just behind the head. The prothoracic gland produce digesteroids, which are the prothoracic glands are basically endocrine glands in the prothorax, which will be explained in external anatomy video. Hence prothoracic. Digesteroids are closely related steroid hormones, including indocin, which is just one of them. They stimulate the synthesis of chitin and protein in epidermal cells and trigger a cascade of physiological acts that accumulates in molting. Essentially, these are the type of hormones that signal the production of the exoskeleton for molting. For this reason, they're often called molting hormones. Upon becoming an adult, the insect's prothoracic glands atrophy or wither away and will never molt again. For the reason that it will just, so that way it does not continue development, it has reached its final stage. Prothoracic glands produce and release digesteroids only after they've been stimulated by yet another chemical messenger hormone. And this is a big one. This is a very important hormone. It's known as prothoracicotropic hormone, or PTTH. This compound is a peptide hormone secreted by the corporal cardiac, which are neurohumoral organs located on the walls of the aorta, just behind the brain. That sounded super scientific-y. I'm so proud of myself. The corporal cardiac release their store of PTTH only after receiving a signal from circulatory cells in the brain. These are the middlemen, the link between the nervous and endocrine system. Essentially, they act as signal amplifiers, sending out a big pulse of hormone to the body in response to a small message from the brain. I hope that made sense. Rewatch it if it didn't. Keep going. There's more. The corporal alata, which are a pair of neurohumoral organs, which lie just behind the corporal cardiac. So here we have the corporal cardiac, which produced PTTH, and here we have the corporal alata, these two muscles right here, or organs, neurohumoral organs. They produce juvenile hormone, yet another hormone, there's a lot, which is a compound that inhibits the development of adult characteristics during the immature stages and promotes sexual maturity during the adult stage. It's basically what turns an insect from a child or a larva into an adult. These are commonly at work during metamorphosis. Well, that's obvious. While they're in the pupa stage for complete metamorphosis in sex, mostly. Near secretory cells in the brain, which are, I'm guessing, all these things, they regulate activity of the corporal alata, stimulating them to produce juvenile hormone, or JH, during larval or nymphal instars, which we'll learn about later, inhibiting them during the transition to adulthood, and reacting them once the adult is ready for reproduction. So what these do is they produce a hormone. So basically, these cells right here regulate the corporal alata, because juvenile hormone is what causes growth and the development of reproduction, or an adult towards reproduction. Yet more information to learn. There are many other tissues and organs in the body that also produce hormones. If you're listening to this without headphones, put them on now. Ovaries and testes, yes, I said it, produce gonadal hormones that have been shown to coordinate courtship and mating behaviors. Ventral ganglia in the nervous system produce one compound called inclusion hormone, very important, you'll learn about later, that helps insects shed its old skeleton, and berzicon, which is another compound, that causes the hardening and tanning of the new one. So these are two hormones that are very important in the process of molting. Other hormones control the level of sugar dissolved in blood, adjust salt and water balance the salt and water, the osmosis basically, and regular protein metabolism. When it says regular, it means regulate. Sorry. Morphogenesis. We did not believe we started this. An insect cannot survive without the support and protection of its exoskeleton. So a new, larger replacement must be constructed inside the old one, like putting on a coat or on under a sweater. It's even harder to take one off. The molting process begins with epidermal cells respond to hormonal changes by increasing the rate of protein synthesis. They're making proteins to harden and keep the exoskeleton healthy. This leads to apolysis, which is a very important process. The physical separation of the epidermis from the old endocuticle. It's the external anatomy video coming soon. You'll learn a lot about that. Basically, it's from the old exoskeleton from the new exoskeleton. The epidermal cells fill the resulting gap with an inactive molting fluid, which is basically just it's just a liquid that is turned into the exoskeleton. After that, they secrete a special lipoprotein called the cuticulin layer that insulates and protects them from the molting fluid's digestive action. This cuticulin layer becomes part of the new exoskeleton's epicuticle, which is the outside of the exoskeleton. the very outer layer. After formation of the cuticulin layer, molting fluid becomes activated and chemically digest quotations the endocuticle and the skeleton. Breakdown products such as amino acids and chitin microfibers, and chitin, as said earlier, is the hard stuff. Will pass through the cuticulin layer, where they are recycled by the epidermal cells and secreted under the cuticulin layer as a new procuticle, which is soft and wrinkled, and basically it's a fresh, brand new exoskeleton. Pore canals within the procuticle, which you'll learn about, allow movement of lipids and proteins towards the new epicuticle, where wax and cement layers form. All of those should be in the external anatomy PowerPoint, but they're not. You'll learn more about that in external anatomy. Ferrate, a very important word, refers to the stage when the insect's body is covered by the two layers of exoskeleton. So this is ferrate is basically the condition of an insect when it's undergoing apolysis or molting. Alright, and I believe I added a little quiz section. Here we go. So the heart is located dorsally in the insect's head, thorax, or abdomen. The correct answer is abdomen. Yay. The number of the correct sequence of organs or structures that food encounters as it passes through an insect's digestive system, number 1 through 5. If you want to pause the video and do that right now, I will give you 2 seconds. 1, 2. So here we have crop, proventriloquus, midgut, ileum, and then the rectum. There are a couple organs that are not there, but that's because this is just a question. I did not put them on there. The spiracles are blank, that regulate the flow of blank into blank. Respiratory system, just so you know. 3, 2, 1. And they are control valves that regulate the flow of air into tracheal tubes. If you want to sum that up, you can basically just say that spiracles are holes that regulate the flow of air into the body, just to make that easier. Congratulations! Yay, this is over. Thank you so much for watching. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. I am now doing requests, so if you request information on an event or a build or anything else, or coding, I'm learning that right now too, just leave it in the comments box below and I will get to it. Alright, thanks. Bye. No, stop recording. Why is it still